Morning to all. In today's session, you are going to learn what is all about the demand estimation and forecasting. According to the Niels Bohr, prediction or forecasting is very difficult and very challenging task, especially when it comes to about the future prediction, when it's come to about the future price or about the future demand as well. So prediction is very difficult, especially if it's all about the future. So let's begin. What is forecasting? So forecasting is a tool which is used for predicting the future demand based on the past information or any past data related to the demand, which will be used by the researcher for the future prediction or for the future forecasting, and that's called forecasting. So forecast, in simple sense, forecasting is a tool which is used mainly to predict about the future demand, which will be used for by the researcher for its own purpose or for its own organization to predict about the demand or to check the status about the demand, and that is called forecasting. Why forecasting is important? These are the reasons, because obviously the demand for any products and services has always been uncertain. It keeps on changing according to the time and according to the taste and preference of the customers. So that's the main reason that forecasting is really important, to check out about the future, whether the particular product which has been designed and implemented by the company, it's really useful or not for the future. So that's the main reason that forecasting can be used for these four parameters. That is, first is strategic planning. It is based on the long range planning. When a particular company or organization would like to plan about the demand, about the prices for the products, so automatically it will be a long period of time as the company could make strategies related to the forecasting about the demand of its own products. So that's why the strategic planning is also being used in case of forecasting. The next concept in the parameter would be the finance and accounting. Definitely, it would forecast if a company forecasting about the future demand. So definitely, the company can also forecast the future budget and how to control the cost for the future so that it will not turn into the losses. And that's why forecasting is used for the finance and accounting. When we come to the next concept, that is marketing, it always talk about the future sales, about how the new products will be launched in the future and how to control the losses if it occurs in terms of not getting sold the products. So that's when how to make a marketing strategies so that the particular product or its sales would get increased in the future. And that's the main reason the forecasting is used in case of marketing as well. The next parameter is production and operation. That is also being used for forecasting, as how much the production would be occurred or would get increased in the near future. So in that particular scenario, and how to operate the production process if the bulk order of the products would come in the near future. So it is called a pre-planned about the that whether it would be successful or not, and in that basis the forecasting will be used in case of production and operations. This is what is forecasting all about. It's just to predict the future in case of accounting, in case of cost control, in case of the future sales, in case of launching a new products, in case of production and operations activities. So this is to just to look back at the past to think about the future, or you can say to predict the future based on the past information or the past data relevant to the activities. So this is the demand for Mercedes E-Class category, and these are the months. So if you can look the predictions, that is the actual demand, which is in the blue color, it is the past sales. It goes up, then down, then again up, and keeps declining according to the upcoming months, we can say. And the red one is the predicted demand. So any organization can predict the actual demand for the near future based on the actual demand, or you can see the or related to a past data, or you can see the past sales for the Mercedes E-Class category. So this is all about the prediction, and this is all about how the forecasting works in an organization. So any product or any demand of a product to predict in the near future, it always be used the past data, so that the predictions, whatever the predictions to be done by the researchers or by the analyst, it could gain into a profits, or it could get succeeds, it could get succeed in their own aims and goals. So that is all about the forecasting. So this is the red one, this predicted demand looking back 6 months. So if we look out the predictions of the last few months, so in the month of July, our organization can predict, is already predicted, it could get increased in the sixth month of any year. So that's all. That's all about the predictions. These are the some journal categories of the forecasting. The first one, forecasting are always be wrong. We cannot say that for whatever the forecasting is to be done about the future demand of a particular product, it could be absolutely right. No, it always be wrong. In fact, you have to use the tools and techniques of forecasting to make it more accurate, or to make it more right. Next one is forecasts are more accurate for groups and families of items. It's very true that forecasting is very useful in terms of the accuracy when it comes to forecast about the groups, forecast about the families of items, whether it would be the luxuries items, or it would be the standard items, etc. The next one is forecasts are more accurate for shorter time periods. That's very true. As I told that forecasting is also being used for the long range planning, but the accuracy, the level of accuracy for the long term planning could not be accurate, and that's one of the characteristics of the forecasting, that it's more accurate for a shorter time period or for a short time period. So that's why it is one of the characteristic of the forecasting. The next one is every forecast should include an error estimates. Definitely, forecasting is not full. It's not all about the accuracy. It always include an error, that what error has been estimated, or how to estimate the error if it is found in the forecasting to rectify. The next one is forecasting are not substitute for calculated demand. That's very true that it's we cannot take an option as forecasting for any demand to calculate. This what makes a good forecasting. If the forecasting could be good, then what would be the outcome? These are the outcomes. It should be timely, it should be as accurate as possible, it should be reliable, it should be a meaningful units presented in writing always, and this method should be very easy to use and understand in most of the cases. These are the issues in forecasting, that forecasting is only good if the information is included in the forecast or relate to the past data. The next one is history will never be a perfect predictor of the future. Maybe the history could be a wrong, and we cannot predict about the future based on the history. So sometimes it could be not a perfect predictor about the future, and there is no other such way to predict about the future based on the past data. So this is also the one of the issue in forecasting. Always be remember that forecasting is based on the assumptions, that's not the accurate decisions or the accurate predictions by the analyst. So it's based on the assumption that the past predicts about the future. So when a particular researcher or analyst do a forecasting, they always think carefully whether or not the past is strongly related what the particular persons or the organization or you expect to observe or look into the future. So that's called the key two main key issues on forecasting. The first one is the information, whatever has been included related to the past data is the only way to do, and history is not a perfect predictor of the future. What should we consider when looking at the past data? So these are the parameters that if a particular analyst or researcher look at the past data or past information, so what the researchers look into the past data or the demand data, uh, these are the categories what the observer or what in a particular researcher will look into it. The first one is trends, the second one is seasonality, the third one is cyclical elements, and the fourth one is autocorrelation, and the fifth one is random variation. So now we studied mathematically one by one these particular parameters. So the trends, this is a way that how the trends look. It's related, it always begin on the y-axis, and trends will be shown in the form of the dots. It's just like correlation. So if trends is if the particular trend is go into a straight line, we talk about the positive trends. If the trends goes downward in a straight line, it goes into the negative trends. So if the particular dots will go into up and down, there is no, that's called the infinite trends where no end would be possible, and that's called the exact graphical representation of the trends. The next one is seasonality. This is way that how the seasonal, you can say whether it would be the winter months, it would be the summer ones, it would be the spring months or month. So this is a way that how the seasonality will be look into a graphical representation. So it will go up and down. It would be always be in the V-shaped U, converse U-shape, converse V-shape, or you can say if you look it into the V-shape, it is an inverse V-shape has been shown in the seasonality. So this is the circle has been marked at how it look into it goes up immediately, goes down, then up, and slowly goes down. So this is a graphical representation and how the seasonality look into the graphs. The third one is cyclical elements. So this is a cyclical where the cyclical goes and immediately could stop. Then again after a certain period, it will again begin, then goes up and down. This is called the cycle has been begin, whether it would be the before 2 months or the after 2 months, and that's called the cyclical elements. This is a way that how the correlation works. So as I told that correlation, it always either upward or downward. So this is a way of showing the correlation as the curve has been going downwards. So that's called autocorrelation, where it shows a positive correlation between one or two variables. The next one is random variation. This is the random variation that within a graph, a particular dots has been shown randomly where no outcome has been put on. So it's randomly the past data has been used and accordingly it has been shown. So which have no meaning in, or the samples has been selected randomly, and accordingly the conclusion could be made whether it would be more accuracy into the conclusion or with the less accuracy of the conclusion, or it has no meaning to conclude anything. So that's called the random variation. The randomly the changes occur into the variables. So these are the main graphical representation to just have a quick view about how the trends look like, how the seasonality look like, how the cyclical elements look like, how the correlation look like, and how the random variation also look like. Now, there are some important questions to understand what is the purpose of the forecast, which systems will use the forecast, how important is the past in estimating the future. The answers, all the questions will be answered according to determine what would be the time period. It would be the 2 months, moving average, it would be the 5 months, what techniques should be used. So it all about that how you understand these five parameters in detail, and then a particular researcher or a learner can able to answer these questions. What would be the exact purpose of the forecast? Which systems will use? So that is all about here. And these are the answers of these three questions. That is all about to use the forecasting method. So basically, when we talk about the forecasting, there are two main methods. The first one is qualitative method and quantitative method. Most of the students thinks that qualitative has always been a subjective in nature and always to take the opinions for one to more experts. So that's very true. That's a qualitative. When we talk about the qualitative, we are also used one of the approach or one of the methods called the mixed method, where the qualitative and quantitative will be used, where it's not based on the purely on the subjective in nature, or purely on the quantitative or the numerical or analytical data would be included. It's a mix of both subjective and as well as the analytical or statistical data would get involved, and that's called the mixed approach. So qualitative method, it's mainly dependent upon the opinions or the views of one or more experts. It always been a subjective in nature. We cannot be measured numerically at all in case of the qualitative method. But when we talk about quantitative method, it always dependent on the data or analytical techniques. Or analytical techniques, we always talk about the statistical techniques. It always measured numerically, whereas the qualitative method will not be measured numerically. We'll always take in opinions where the subjectively we took in opinions and shared opinions into the readers. But when we talk about the quantitative method, where a particular researcher analyze the data and prove that the particular whatever the facts or whatever the factual statement has been made, it is basically been proved to using that data or not. So that's called the quantitative data using the statistical tools. So this is the basic difference in how you identify it, and whether it is a qualitative method or a quantitative method. So where the data has been shown, the more accuracy has been shown about the data, and using the statistical tool and measured numerically, that's quantitative. And whatever the views and opinions or any subjective in nature matter, that stands for qualitative method. So these are the methods or some methods of the you can say forecasting methods or techniques. So when we talk about the qualitative methods, we talk about the Delphi method, jury of executive opinion, sales for composite, consumer market survey. And when we talk about the another category, is schedule method, which is a simple regression analysis and multiple regression analysis. So when we talk about the qualitative models or method, these are the four qualitative methods. But when we talk about the quantitative method, we categorize into two parts: time series methods and the casual methods. So when we talk about the time series method, we talk about the NAVIV, moving average, weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, trend analysis, seasonality analysis, multiplicative decomposition, And when we talk about the second category of the method of quantitative, we talk about the casual method. It's one, two, it's simple regression analysis and multiple regression analysis. So let's study one by one about these methods and each category of the quantitative and qualitative method. So let's begin. So these are the qualitative forecasting methods, or in other words, we could say the qualitative forecasting model. So the first method is Delphi method, where the opinions and views has been taken from 5 or 10 to 15 experts. So once the opinions has or views has been taken from that experts, now they distribute their opinion and experts to their staff, to their employees, or whatever the results could conclude, that will be shared to the management heads or management team. And that's called the Delphi method in a very simple words. So Delphi method, it's a very iterative group process which allow experts to share their opinions or to share their views related to the forecast about anything about the product or demand for a product in the near future, and how the process would goes on. So these are the three steps. Then 5 or 10 or 15 experts who make the forecast, then they assist whatever the staff is available, they assist by preparing, distributing, collecting, and summarize a series of question and survey results. So once they get the survey results, now they all staff will make a value judgments, and so that they can provide any decisions, or they can provide some inputs in their decisions to the management team, and that's called the Delphi method. The another category is a jury of executive opinions. So these are the opinions which of a very small group, and that group is involves a high level manager, or you can say the managers, high level managers who have a expertise knowledge of the statistical models, of the statistical tools. So whatever the numerical estimation is to be done is done by the guru, and that would be the result for that particular you can say scenario, that particular situation, and that's called the jury of executive opinion. It's an opinion of a small group of a high level who has an expertise knowledge of the statistical method, and whatever the estimation to be done is done by a small group, and that would be the result. So that's called the jury of executive opinion. Now we talk about the sales force composite. So when we talk about the sales force here, the particular you can say the reviews is to be done, but that should be in a realistic in nature, and accordingly the forecasting is to be done based on the reviews. Even how the forecast, or to whom the forecast is to be done, that is the each salesperson or each sales representative. They are the main you can say respondents. They are the main, you can say, participants who estimate the sales in its own reason, and the reviews, whatever the reviews based on this estimated sales by them will be used in forecasting to ensure some realistic or real results. So what if then later on they combine all the results and share to the high level managers, so that they can reach out some overall forecasting which is good for the organization. So that's called the sales forecast composite. The next category is the consumer market survey. So when we talk about the consumer market survey, we always use such tool forecasting to get about the future purchases, to get about the future product design and planning according to the customers or potential customers' choices, and that's called the consumer market survey. So here, consumer is a king, where the particular forecasting is to be done based on the consumer surveys or based on the consumer information regarding the future purchases, and accordingly that will be used for its own product designing, how to plan the new product. That is called the consumer market survey. Next is qualitative forecasting methods. So there are grassroots as well, where the future demand would be possible by asking the person who is very closest to the customer. Market research is also one of the you can say qualitative method, where the particular researcher trying to identify the customer habits so that the new ideas would come about a new product. The next one is panel consensus. When we talk about panel here, it refers to the future estimations or future demand about the panel of experts, or taking the views of the panel of experts in a particular area. Next one, or a particular reason. The next is historical analogy, where the particular researcher is focused to identify the another similar market that belongs to the past market, and that's called the historical analogy. The next one is Delphi method, where the group of panels would sit together, talk about or give their opinions, share their opinions, and just in writing, and that opinions or views will be shared to the group of people, that is the staff, and accordingly they will reach out some conclusion for forecasting their own demand for the particular products. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. So there are, when we talk about the qualitative, the mass of information, whether quantitative in nature or qualitative in nature, and accordingly the particular researcher or analyst come with the prediction, come with the forecasting about it. But there are two main disadvantages, because if the mass of information, it is very difficult to measure, it is very difficult to improve the accuracy of the forecasting, and there is no systematic way to conclude such a mass of information which is available for or used for the forecasting. But when we talk about the next disadvantage, there always a chance that the particular forecasting is being finalized, which also include the errors, which also includes the bias system of the experts, or dices of the experts in that particular scenario. And that is also the one of the main disadvantage of the qualitative forecast. Next is, as I told, time series. When we talk about the next concept, that is the qualitative forecasting models or method. The first one is the three main. We can talk about the quantitative forecasting, where these particular concepts will be used in the upcoming quantitative forecasting method with mathematical calculations. The first one is time series. Time series is always being used to predict the future demand based on the past history trends. So whatever the history trend says, it goes up and down, and how randomly it goes infinite in terms of increasing or decreasing the exact demand or production of a particular product, and that model is called the time series model, which is being evaluated and estimated according to the time period. It would be the seasonal basis, it would be the summer or winter or spring basis, or monthly, weekly, quarterly, half yearly, and even yearly as well. So the next is casual relationships, where we talk about the autocorrelation. We used here the statistical method to establish a relationship between the various items and demands. As I already explained, that demand is not only based on price, it's also the several factors which cause or influence the demand. How you establish the relationship between these various factors and demand, that's called the causal relationship. So when we talk about the next is simulation, simulation is always talk about the random selection, where we talk about the random changes into the data, and based on that data, the forecasting is to be taken off, and that models can be incorporate or can be made some randomness and non-linear effects where the influences to be done either randomly or non-randomly, and that's called this emulation. So of course, every quantitative method or qualitative method have advantages or disadvantages. So one of the advantage of quantitative is that independent variable is to be made and forecast is mainly based on the predetermined value. So whatever the values has been estimated in the past, that will be used in the quantitative forecast. There always an accuracy of the forecasting because the whatever the data has been you can say available in the past, and the same data will be used for forecasting about the future using the statistical tools. So that tools, the statistical tool, will make the past data for the forecasting purpose makes the accuracy. Once the models one any of the model has been constructed or been decided, then accordingly for the forecasting or predicting, it would be very less time consuming to generate the results. The next one is they have a means of forecasting points and estimates as well as the intervals. So for quantitative forecast are always being used numerically. So of course, so whatever the forecasting related to the point, a particular period of point or a point of time estimation or any class intervals, any series of estimations to be done, the quantitative for method or model will be used in case of forecasting. The next one is how we pick up our forecasting. So these are the basis that how, on what basis the forecasting model will be selected. First is data available. The data should be available that is related to the past time period. That whether it would be the 6 months data would be used for forecasting, it would be 2 months, it would be 3 months, and accordingly the model will be used whether qualitative or quantitative. Required accuracy, so of course, and required resources would be available. So if you see the past data, you have to check the data that whether it would be accurate for forecasting about the future or not. So that is the most important base of the forecasting or the forecasting model as well, and resources, whether it would be related to the energy, whether it related to the manpower, whether it's related to the financial or financial status or funds as well. So the even the equipments will be used. That's called the required resources that should be available about the for choosing the forecasting model. So these are the four bases of forecasting model. Now we talk about the time series. As I already told, there are so many models, so many methods under the quantitative model. So one of the first method that is Naive time series method. With so whatever the happen recently will happen again this time. How to calculate that, whether on what time it would come again. So if the tsunami has come last year, how to calculate it, whether it could come into the next year or next to next year. This name technique will be applied there, that how it would be measured or whether on what time period it could come again. Nobody knows, but through this it could be you can say simplified. It could get not an exact accurate information, but somehow some baseline information would come up in about the future related to any situation or any issue which is faced by the natural calamities, or you can see the natural issues. So that's this model will be used. So whatever happened recently will happen again this time, and that's called the same time period. It's very simple, it's very flexible. This is the particular formula which is being used. FT, we talk about the forecasted time period, and YT minus 1, we talk about the, you can say, the past time period which is being used. Either it would be the quarterly data, you can use, either it could be the monthly data. So if the, you can say T, if the particular time period, if you are using quarterly data, it could be 4. If you are using monthly data, how many months? It would be the 12 months. So that's accordingly you have to calculate the particular value. So it always provides a baseline to measure the other models as well. That if the quarterly or monthly data is to be used, then how the monthly data will be used further for forecasting. It always attempt to capture any seasonal factors at the expense of ignoring trends. As I told, the trends is always be the infinite, could be changed within a seconds or within a point of time, I could say. But and needs a model or a method of the quantitative forecasting is always attempt to capture whatever the seasonal factor, whatever the seasonal issues would be occurred, and in fact it's ignored the trend. There is no role of the trends, as the trends will always change within a particular point of time or within the seconds. So it is very difficult to forecast such trends. So that's the main reason that name is all method would always ignore the trends, and whatever the time period is a way to calculate the predicted time for a particular situation of happening which is being happened recently, how to estimate that it will happen again or not, on what parameters, on what time period. It would be monthly, after 1 year, it would be after 6 months. So this is a way that how to calculate. The next one is moving average, which is called the time series, is one of the quantitative method, and under the time series, there are various methods to calculate the value of forecasting about the future using this time series method. So moving average method is a method of the time series, and the first model is of the moving average, which uses the past period of data so that they predict the period of demand in the near future. So that's called the moving average. It would be the 2 months moving average. So how to calculate the average of the 2 months, how to calculate the average of the 5 months. So if the values has been given of the 5 months, so just add that 5 months value and divide by 5, as it is called the 5 moving average. If it is called the 2 moving average, or the 6 months values has been given, so 2 moving average, just calculate the 2 months average. So just to what, like for example, January, February, March, and June. So you have to calculate the 2 moving average. So just calculate to January, Feb, 2 months, add the value, divide by 2. Then March, April, add the value, then divide by 2. So this is a way that how the moving average method works on. So there are two types of moving average. First one is simple moving average, and the second one is weighted moving average. And such average is based on the assumptions that whatever the accurate prediction of future demand would be possible, it would be simple and are always a combination of the past demand as well. So this is the result of the moving average, which is based on the assumption that whatever the result would come, it could be the accurate prediction of the future demand, which is in a very simple manner, and it, of course, it's include the past demand as well. So this is called the moving average, and this is the formula of a simple moving average. That is forecastic time period of a moving average. T, ft plus 1 is a forecast for a next period. T is a current period, and we can say the forecasting horizon, how far back we look. It would be the past 2 months, it would the past 5 months. So the n would be the 2 or 5. A is the actual sales figure, whatever given in the particular quotient for the each period. So this is a way that how the simple moving average. So once you add all the values, divide by 2, 3, whatever the moving average months or year has been given, accordingly you have to divide, and that's called the simple moving average. So let's talk about the question over here. So it's a forecasting sales as Kroger. Kroger is one of the, you can say, a company for a water bottles in the US. So this is the one of the example has been given. Kroger sells among other stuff as well bottled spring water. So these are the months has been given from January to July. You have to calculate the bottles of the July month, and these are the particular bottles in numbers which has been given for January, February, March, April, May, June, and July. You have to. What will the question is? What will be the sales of for July? So let's begin. So you have to calculate the three. There are two main, you can say, category, that whether a particular analyst either calculate the three moving average method or a 5 months moving average method. So when we talk about the 3 months, as we have to calculate the July, so we have to consider the past data before July. That means June, May, and April. And of course, we have to calculate the 3 months moving average. So what would be the 3 months before July? Because as we need to calculate the sales for July month. So June, May, and April. So that's 3 months. You can see that figures will be added and divide by 3. So this is a, you can see the answer, the actual sales of the bottle of June, as we need to calculate the forecasted demand for July. So we need to take a past data before July. So what the data has been given in the question is July, May, April. So just add the values and just divide by 3. Why be 3? Because it's a 3 month simple moving average to calculate. So n would be the 3. So once to add the value, these three value 1195 plus 1210 plus 1275, just add these values, just divide by 3, you will get the sales of July month, and that's called, the answer is 1227. The next question is, if we apply the 5 month simple moving average, so we need to calculate the July sales and 5 months. So it's June, May, April, March, Feb. So these are the past five months figures, where so that accordingly we need to calculate the sales of July month. So this is the exact data, or how to calculate the 5 month simple moving average, that is the forecast of July month. So within a July, if you see the July month, June, May, April, March, and Feb, 5 months data has been given in the question. Just add these 5 months data, or the values or the figures, add and just divide by 5. Why it is being divided by 5? Because we need to calculate the 5 month simple moving average. If we need to calculate the 2 month simple moving average of July, then we have to take the values of June and May if we apply the 2 months moving average method. So just add the values of June and May and just divide by 2, you will get the value of July, sales of July month, using the 2 months moving average. So this is a way that how to calculate the 3 month simple moving average, 5 month simple moving average, 2 month simple moving average, 7 months, 10 months. It depends according to the whatever the data has been given. If the data is lengthy, so it could be asked a 10th month moving simple moving average, or 7 months moving simple average. So it depends on the data. If the data has been given in the all the months, then you can accordingly estimate the values, as it is based on the past data. No assumptions that okay, if any month the value has not been given, we assume 0. No, Nothing is to be assumed over here when it comes to calculate the values at the 3, 5 or 2 months or 7 months moving average method or not. So accordingly you have to estimate, and accordingly the particular question has been designed to calculate the value figures or values. So now it has been estimated, just it is a graphical representation of 5 months and 3 months moving average forecast. If you look at the red dots is based on these figures, that's from January to June. And just to calculate the July month, that is the seventh month, one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. These are the 6 months from January to June. And the seventh month, we have shown the 5 month moving average forecast and 3 months moving average forecast. So this is a way that how to show the moving average data related to the past data. Also, you have to show in the one graph, and the moving average values that you have to show in the one graph. And this is all about the graphical representation of moving average method. So when we talk about the conclusion of this moving average method, 5 month average, of course, the data which has been shown is more accurate as the value is more than the 3 months moving average. And of course, the 3 months moving average is more responsive for a shorter period. But when we talk about 5 months, which is more than the 5 period, so it smooth the data. It needs data more so that the accuracy about the forecasting with about the next few months would be accurate. So and conclude, 3 months moving average forecast is more responsive in case of forecasting about the demand in the near future. So next concept is time series. That is a quantitative method, and under quantitative method time series, there is another method which is called the weighted moving average method. This is the formula of the weighted moving average method, where now we have to calculate not the actual figures, and of course we have to also look the weighted values of that particular variable. That whether would be the same bottles, it would be the rice, it would be the wheat. So T stands for the current period, and the FT plus 1 is a forecast for the next period. N is a forecasting horizon, the time period that it would be the two time period of for the 2 months, for the 3 months, that is called N. A is the actual sales figure for each period, and W is the importance, a weight that we give to each period. So let's look into the numerical questions to have a more clarity. So so let's talk about that. But why do we need such model? As the abilities always give more importance than what actually happened recently, without losing any impact of the past. So these are the example has been given to you through the diagrammatic presentation. A prediction actual demand, which is the past sale, has been given in the blue color, and the red color, which has been shown a prediction. You can see using the 6 months, you can see a sales of simple moving average data. 6 months of the simple moving average data has been used. So this is called that when we talk about the 6 months simple moving average, which always shows an equal weights, that what data that we have to pick up, that what data what we observe from the past. And of course it's not showing any predictions in the month of the July, whether it would be the downward or it would be upward, because when we talk about the time series or the where the trends would be like has no role in it, because it shows goes up and down when we talk about the weighted moving average methods. So whether it would be 6 months or 7 months, and accordingly the prediction could be used. So if you look out the green, which is the prediction about the weighted moving average, which is very nearer to the simple moving average. So when we talk about the weighted moving average, there is a data should be available about the simple moving average, because weighted will be calculated from the simple moving average data. So accordingly, the demand for merchandise each class e-class category. So the 6 months data has been given, and from the next for the next month, accordingly the weighted moving average will be calculated. So this is a way that how to show up graphically using the conceptual framework or using an example. So this is a question for you when we talk about the weighted moving average method. A same question has been considered over here. The Cronjes sales of the bottled water, which is a month, has been given to you from January to July, and the bottles figures has also been given to you. The sales of bottle that in this month, the particular sales of the bottles has been having this particular figures being sold. So what would be the sales for July? So let's have an answer over here. This is an answer. If we need to, before we come to the weights, we need to calculate the simple moving average. As I showed in the figure, that before you come to the weighted moving average, you need to estimate the simple moving average. So once you estimate the simple moving average, it is easy to predict the weighted moving average. So this is a simple procedure. The 6 months, let's consider 6 months simple moving average. So if we talk about the 6 months of July, that is June, May, April, March, February, and January. So just add all the values, divide by 6, you will get the value of forecasted sales of July month, that is 1277. As we talk about 1277, so we need used equal weights, because the weights has not been given, the equal weights will be considered, and automatically when we talk about the equal weights, definitely there should be a downfall trends would actually exist, but is not observed based on the past data which has been given in the sales. So let's talk about here. So when we talk about 6 months moving average, now we need to calculate the weighted moving average. So when we talk about weighted moving average, we always talk about the July months. We using the 2 months data, that 40-60 ratio, 30-70 ratio. So we have to give the equal weights in the percentage. It's written over here. We can talk about the 40% oblique 60%, 30% or 70% weightage, or 20% or 80% weightage. So you have to make the weights for the last 3 months more than the first 3 months. Why it is because the whatever the values has been given, or the months which is nearer to the July, that is June, May, and April, these particular weights is to be considered: 1275, 1210, and 1195. So accordingly, the percentage has been given from the second from for the particular June month. We took 40 to 60%, and when we talk about the next, we have to reduce the first 30 and increase the value of the downwards weightage. Then accordingly, we have again reduced the weighted average of the April month, and that is 20%, and then add on weighted, that is 80%. So 40-60%, 30-70%, and 20-80% if we calculate. So if we go around the values that which has been shown over here in 1267. So once we calculate the 40-60%, the whatever the figure has been given for the June, whatever the figure has been given for the May, or you can say April. So accordingly, you have to whatever the value has been given, 1195 into 40 by 60%, 1125 into 30 and 70%, and 1135 20 or 80%, and accordingly just calculate the values and the answers in front of you, that is on the screen. So whatever the importance that we give to the recent data, the more accuracy will come in the forecasting, and the exact result will come whether it will be the declining trend or it would be the upward trends in our forecasting, and that's called the weighted moving average. We have to give the weightage of the particular forecasting or actual demand of the particular sales of various months, that is 6 months simple moving average, and that will be based on the simple moving average. So whatever the value 1277, accordingly we have to estimate the weighted of for the last 3 months. So this is called weighted. If it is 10 months, so last 5 months will be calculated based on the weighted. So this is called the weighted moving average. Now, how we choose the weights, it depends upon the how much the importance we give or feel the past data has been accurate or not. Whether it depends upon the seasonality, the weights of past data could be zero or can also be zero. So it depends that how the weights could be chosen based on these parameter on the past data and of course for the seasonal basis. When we talk about the comparison, then which is better, it is a weighted moving average is better, simple moving average better. So weighted moving average is better than the simple moving average because it always varies on the weights which has been calculated. We talk about the calculation weighted. We have assumed the weightage could be like this 40 to 60, 30 to 70, 20 to 80 for the last 3 months. And that's why according the weights, the value and the values has been estimated based on the value of the simple moving average. And that's why the weighted moving average is far better than because they have an ability to change the weights, but which is not possible in the simple moving average. The next one is exponential smoothing. Basically, this concept is mainly used to estimate that whatever the errors or the mistakes to be occurred for the latest forecast will be rectified using this technique, which is called the exponential smoothing. So the prediction of the future is mainly dependent upon for the most recent observation, and whatever the errors would be occurred in it, it could be rectified or modified through this technique. And smoothing, we have a numerically there is a symbol which is called a constant alpha, which is has been shown. You can say alphabetically or symbolically, I could say here, denotes the importance of the why. By this alpha a, it always denotes that importance of the past error. Whatever the errors or mistakes being happened or observed in the past data, it denotes that it is also equally important that whatever the mistakes in the past being occurred, it will not will happen in the future when the predictions or the forecasting is to be done. Why we use exponential smoothing? The first one is it uses the less store space for data. Second, extremely accurate. Third one is very easy to understand. Then next one is very little calculations would be possible, and you could find it's more complex as well. So on that basis, you have to use according to the statistical techniques calculators or another techniques for the calculations. Next one is there are very simple accuracy tests as well. So that's why the exponential smoothing is very useful, and based on the four merits, you can easily use this technique. This is called the mathematical equation, where the ft is a forecast time period and ft minus 1 is a forecast for the next period. Alpha, as I told, is a smoothing constant value at a t minus 1 is the actual sales, whatever the actual sales of the last period, and forecasted sales if it is given for the last period. So this is the formula that ft is equal to ft minus 1 plus alpha by at minus 1 minus ft minus 1. So the constant value will always mean constant, but if the alpha value is low, so there is a little reaction to the differences. If the alpha value is high, there is a lot of reactions to the differences. So it means there is a different reactions to be taken off. When the alpha value is high, there is a little reactions to differences, but it means the differences could be seen a little. If the alpha value is low, differences seem to be a huge if the alpha value is high. So more numerical calculations and more techniques will be explained in the next session. So we continue the more methods which are very important for the examination to be asked in it. So till time, thank you to all for listening this lecture, an important lecture, and namaste to all.